I think the logins are starting to slow down, so we'll get started. So thank you all for joining us. My name is Bruce Bianco, and with my colleague Gerard Frederic, we will be taking you through a quick introduction and a demo, short demo of a new solution that we have launched, the self-service temperature kiosk. A couple of housekeeping. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's two buttons, one for chat, one for Q&A. We have a team on as well. So if you want to ask questions, choose one of those, ideally the Q&A. We're also going to have a Q&A session at the end of this, but we do have people on the line that are answering questions as we go through the webinar. Next slide, Dread. So really quickly, for those who are not as familiar with Barcodes Group, Barcodes is a leading provider of, obviously, barcode solutions, mobile computing, RFID, and our identification group for identification solutions. Today, obviously, as I suggested before, we are talking and excited about a new solution that we feel is relevant to what's going on in today. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is our temperature screening kiosk and how that applies to a back-to-work program. Next slide, Gerard. So why is temperature screening important? So I think, quite simply, many of us, our businesses, the organizations we represent, are anxious to get back to work, to some level of normality or normacy, to engage with our colleagues and our partners and our customers and so forth. In order to do that, we need to ensure that we have a safe and healthy environment for our employees, and we have to respect, as much as possible, guidelines that are being recommended from state and federal authorities as part of a successful back-to-work program. Next slide, Gerard. So there, in talking with our customers and understanding the marketplace, there are a number of solutions out there outside of what we're going to be talking about today, or the solution that we are offering. So I wanted to take some time to just go through those to share some of the options that we see people discussing or engaging with. Primarily three other types of solutions. One is using services, and so that means hiring a group. They usually come in with infrared cameras. There is human contact, so that's not ideal because it does put people at risk to some level. And these services are also quite expensive on an ongoing basis, on a monthly basis. There are group screening technologies that are, if I can use the word, pretty cool, and they can do, half a dozen people at one time coming through any entrance. Obviously, these are more sophisticated solutions. They're very expensive, probably in the range, to give you an idea, probably in the range of 20,000 plus. They're quite involved in setting up and maintaining, obviously, but there are those solutions out there. And then the other one, the last one that we see some people considering or discussing, is simple kiosks that do surveys. And so, they're time consuming, one, getting people into your office because they have to fill out surveys and so forth, or a kiosk and answer health questions. And because they're based on an honor system, they're less reliable. Gerard? So our solution. It's a standalone pedestal kiosk, completely hands-free, touchless device with voice prompts. So there's no human interaction at all. From the time that you start, and Gerard will show this as part of the demo, from the time you start walking up to it, you're looking at approximately a second for it to engage and catch the visitor or employee coming in, and it's probably maybe another second or two to take the temperature. So it's incredibly fast. The other thing that we're quite proud of is it's highly accurate, plus or minus 0.9 degrees Fahrenheit, and Gerard will show us that. It has some features for alerting other personnel or reception staff or guard staff within the lobby. Audible alarms. It's got LED displays. Those can be turned off. One of the things that we found, while it does have these audible alarms, in talking with our customers, we find that most people are probably, and this is not to say that you will or won't, but most people are turning that off because to some degree it can alienate somebody that has a temperature. So, but it does have all these features in it. One particular feature that I like, I think is really important, besides the facial recognition, which it does have facial recognition for your employees, so you can load your employee records into a kiosk or kiosks. And so in addition to recognizing their temperature or taking their temperature, it will actually recognize if this person should be at this particular facility. But given that a lot of, or there's some people, I think the statistic is 43, so we may argue that may be different, but I think it's 40% are asymptomatic. You probably also, especially for operations that it would be difficult to social distance, you probably want to think about having a mask program as part of your back to work program. And so this kiosk, in addition to understanding your temperature and taking your temperature and alerting people whether if it's above the threshold, it can also detect whether a mask is worn. So if somebody walks up and they're within the threshold, and so they say, yes, you should be allowed in, it will actually detect whether that person is complying with the policy for a mask. And that's a feature you can turn on and off. It has a stranger mode. So if you only want employees to move through a certain entrance or be allowed into a certain facility, if you turn stranger mode on, it will enforce that everybody has to be enrolled into the system. So it will exclude any guests from coming in. If you turn stranger mode off, then it really becomes just a temperature kiosk, and it's not necessarily concerned about the person coming in, it's only concerned about their temperature. It has LAN and Wi-Fi connectivity for additional services and platforms that we're releasing, and we'll give you a little bit of information about those in a coming slide. It is also FCC for the US and CE certified in Europe. And I think one of the nicest features about this product, and Gerard will talk to it, is how simple it is to set up. I think out of the box or the crate, you're probably realistically looking at less than 5 minutes, and you're up and taking people's temperature. So that kind of gives you an idea of the solution. Other lack of a better word, profiles, options for countertops are coming out. At this point, we focused on the pedestal, but we will have different form factors. It was the word I was looking for coming out. At this point, I will, if you guys want to see it, I'll hand it off to Gerard, and Gerard can take us through a demonstration of the unit. So it's all yours.
Thanks, Bruce. Good morning, folks. Thanks for joining the webinar today. So as Bruce mentioned, I want to pick back up on the ease of installation and setup. When you get this unit out of the box, you unpackage it, stand it up, it requires power, 120 volts AC power. That's the only thing that you need to provide locally. Plug it in, and within less than a minute, I've done this multiple times, and I would say within 30 to 40 seconds, this unit is up and running. And here it is. Like I said, 30 to 40 seconds, it's spooled up, the Android app has launched, and it's right there on the screensaver page. Little gears rotating around, and it's ready to start screening. So what I'll do now is just walk up to it 2 or 3 times so that you can hear the prompts. As Bruce said, it has audio prompts to help people maneuver up to it. And I have pre-configured it to look for the mask. So I'll walk up and let you hear what the device comes back with.
Please get close for taking temperature. Please wear a mask.
So it's
normal temperature.
Prompting me to wear the mask.
Please get close for taking taking temperature. Please get close for taking temperature. Normal temperature.
So on the left-hand side there, you see what's actually happening on the screen. It's giving me a no admittance, and it's asking me to wear the mask. So I'm going to put on a very simple mask that I've been using. The algorithm is pretty clever.
Normal temperature.
So right now, it's recognized that employee Dirk G, that's me, pre-enrolled, is correctly wearing a mask. I've got the proper temperature. I'm below the temperature threshold, so it's giving me admittance. And you no longer have the red LED and the red banner. I'm getting green lights.
Normal temperature. Normal temperature.
Now, 2 days later, I went home and I'm coming back to work, and I might have gotten an elevated temperature. So I'm going to simulate that with a glass mug here full of hot water, and let's see how well the application works.
Abnormal temperature. Abnormal temperature. Abnormal temperature.
So now I'm getting the abnormal temperature alert, red LED, red banner, and the temperature reading that is seen. Because I'm using a glass mug that's not a very calibrated source of heat, it's going to be pretty high up there.
Abnormal temperature.
So the unit, as you see, is displaying in Fahrenheit. The temperature display can be adjusted. Forgot to mention that, depending on how your team wants to configure it, whether they want to do Celsius, centigrade, or Fahrenheit, that's something that we can do here. So I'll show you. I'm going to quickly, using a keyboard, I'm going to be able to go in here and with the password's protected, access, select preliminary settings here, lots of different settings to go under, and I am going to turn the mask detection off. And also, just to give you a quick idea, Bruce mentioned the audio alarm, the audible alarm. I'm going to do one test with the audible alarm so that you can hear what that looks like. Commit the changes with a quick save of the button here. And as you can see, without even having to reboot the system, application's back online and it's running. So, walking up to it.
Normal temperature.
Dirk G's got regular temperature today. Went out for lunch and symptoms are popping up, and he comes back. So I'm going to have to follow up with some secondary screening due to that elevated temperature above the threshold. And I'm going to quickly turn that off. So we don't have to deal with that very loud siren. And you're asking yourself probably, well, what did the machine capture? So let's quickly jump into past records here, another submenu. And here we see, we've been running these demos here for the last few minutes, and it's capturing a screenshot, a thumbnail of every single event as I'm walking up to the machine, and it's screening me whether I'm being passed or not passed, and I'm enrolled, so it's been pretty consistent in identifying me as Dirk G. And you see the thumbnail shots showing you a real time. So you've got a constant recording, date stamp, time stamp, and the actual temperature that the machine has read, along with a real-time photo at that event. And you can export these to a thumb drive. You can also query back as far as the memory of the machine is holding the events on the database, on the local database, and run the dates that you want and export to a thumb drive.
Gerard,
So
can you
here
just
we are back.
can you talk
Yes?
to the unit itself, the size? Maybe put your hand up so people can see the size of it, the case, that kind of stuff.
Okay, yes, indeed. So the device stands on this pedestal at about 61 inches tall overall. So off the floor right now, you've got 61 inches. The head unit, it is adjustable, so you can tilt it up and down. It has a 30-degree range of tilt. You have, your display is 8-inch diagonal LCD display, non-touch, as Bruce mentioned, so there's no touch required, whether it's by the users or by the operator, whoever's maintaining, whether it's the IT or the HR department. No need to touch the device. Once it's been set up and installed, you would only use the keyboard to interface with the unit. Got a set of sensors right here. You've got infrared and camera sensors, and then final thermal sensor. All of these sensors are working together to provide you the facial recognition, the mask recognition, temperature screening, and capturing the photo. And right here is that little LED bar. Now, what we found is that the quality of this product is pretty high up there. You've got a nice edge-to-edge glass bezel construction here. There is no gaps, no burrs or anything. It's an IP65 rating, so not for outdoor use, but it can withstand mild cleaning with whatever your IT department recommends for cleaning touchscreens and telephones and stuff like that. You can use on this device and it will fit, it will work perfectly fine, no issues with that. The device is very solid, very robust, nice fit and finish on it. It has a fan built in, so if you didn't want to use the fan, you could turn the fan on for a full time, or it can turn on automatically based on the temperature of the environment. So we've covered about how easy it is to plug and play and install and get this 8-inch screen going. The reads, as you saw, 1 to 2 seconds. So I'll do a couple more here and I'll walk up faster so you can see how much faster the unit is.
Normal temperature. Normal temperature.
So the read rate of 1 to 2 seconds is pretty accurate and phenomenal, and I have not had any issues. It does a very good job picking up the persona that I have registered in here. I change it every now and then, and it's spot on, very, very reliable. So is there anything else that you want me to focus on this
No, I think we're
portion
good.
of the demonstration, Bruce?
No, I see we've got questions coming in, so let's finish off, and then we'll get to the Q&A. I appreciate that, Gerard. Thank you. You're like the correspondent. Yeah, perfect, right there. So some of the benefits, obviously, it does a great job of taking temperature and ensuring that people coming into your facility are safe, ensuring that you can put together a successful return to work program that complies with federal, again, and federal and state recommendations. It's completely touchless, so there is absolutely zero human interaction. There's no need to touch screens or press buttons, which is fantastic. And a little bit more intangible, but the ability to show your workforce that maybe, concerned coming back to work or have questions, maybe be a little bit anxious, that you are putting significant procedures and policies in place to ensure their safety. We've highlighted her, and based on conversations we're having, this is what means the most to people. And next slide, Gerard. So just review some of the capabilities. While it has lots of features, as Gerard has shown us, it is a temperature kiosk, and it is very good at taking temperatures. It does have the face mask, which is fantastic, the facial detection as well, but the primary use case is obviously temperature verification and auditing. You can set the alarms, whether they're LED or the audible ones, as we talked about. Gerard didn't talk about it, but we can in the question and answer period or on one-to-one for those people that are interested in following up. There's temperature calibration. We can talk through that. Again, it's Wi-Fi enabled, and we're going to give you sort of a sneak peek at some additional services and platforms that we'll be launching in the coming weeks. The two main modes are either you're letting everybody in your door and you're not worried necessarily about who's at the kiosk, but you want to grab their temperature. So that allows you to bring in visitors, or you have the recognition mode, which means that somebody has to be in the database. The cost for this unit, the list price for this unit is $32.50. And then there are additional services for installation, project management, depending on your project. And we recommend that you speak to your authorized provider for those types of things. Next slide, Gerard. So this is what we've been kind of hinting about. So what you saw is Gerard doing a lot of manual procedures at the kiosk level. We are launching the M0 platform so that it's more of an enterprise level tool to allow you to manage multiple units and not have to go into an individual unit. So from a hardware level, it manages the health of the unit itself to make sure that they're online, that they're working properly, that sort of stuff. You can do, if you're adding records to it, so without the back-end platform, you have to enroll yourself on each individual unit. If you want to be allowed access at various doors, you have to actually go and be registered at those various units. With the M0 platform, you'll be able to do that at one location, and then it will be synchronized across all of the various locations and kiosks. Reporting capability. So again, you saw Gerard go in and pull reports or be able to pull reports, but you have to do that at the unit level. With the M0 platform, you'll be able to do that at an enterprise level. High temperature notifications. So right now it has the audible alarm and the LED. So you really would want somebody in the lobby at this time. With this, with the M0 platform, the backend platform, you'll be able to set up notifications so that it can capture a picture of a person and then notify somebody in security or health and safety or so forth that this person was registered as a higher temperature. And it gives you a little bit more privacy when you're dealing with that particular person or bringing that person to a separate screening environment. There are APIs, REST for those interested, or for your technical people. There are REST APIs, so if you want to integrate this information into an access control system or some other third-party ERP system, then that's available as well. And the list price for this is $295 per unit per year, is what this back-end platform will list for. Next slide. There you go. Thanks. So these are the various, you would have been introduced to this webinar through these various brands. This is certainly where if you have questions outside of this webinar, please go back to your representative at one of these brands which are carrying the unit. and we can certainly set up further conversations and answer any other questions that you have. At this point, yeah, right on time. We wanted to open up to Q&A. I see that we have a number of questions coming in through the Q&A area or from the chat. So Edwin, if you want to go ahead and ask some questions, we will do our best to answer on this call. We've got about half an hour left for those that want to stay with us.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we extended this webinar from 30 to 60 minutes, Bruce and Gerard, because there's a lot of questions coming in, some of which you have addressed throughout the slides, but I think it's maybe good to hear some of the answers again. The first question I'll keep firing them at you. What's the weight of the stand?
That's a Gerard question.
So great question. As far as the pedestal and the assembly, it's about 35 pounds. What we've done to minimize weight is used an aluminum pedestal, so that significantly reduces the weight and makes it easier for logistics and transportation and shipping.
And can a printer be attached?
So at this point in time, out of the box, standalone, it's not interfaced with a printer. There could be some printer integrations long-term, folks. That is a much more in-depth integration and would require some consultation. So as Bruce mentioned earlier, we're available to discuss those kind of requests on a one-to-one basis.
So then, where does the data go?
Gerard, you seem to be doing well. Keep going.
Currently, the data is being saved on the unit. So this Android application has a memory that's partitioned into 2 or 3 sections, I should say. Section to run the application, obviously. A section to hold the enrolled faces. So anybody that you've enrolled in it, it's got a partition to store a certain capacity of enrolled personas into the device. And then you've got a smaller portion of it that's reserved for the database. And it all depends on the settings of the camera, because you can go to a higher resolution or a lower resolution photo, and you can get anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 events recorded, and it's a first in, first out. So once you reach the maximum capacity, it will start dumping the first events and refresh with the new ones. And you can do a download of those events either on a day-by-day basis or whatever, using a thumb drive port that is available as part of this unit right out of the box. Thumb drive is not included. The user would have to, the end user would have to provide that.
So the data will be stored on the unit. The data will be stored on the unit until you reach your limit?
Correct.
Unless, Gerard, correct me if I'm wrong, but unless you're using, once we launch the M0 platform, then it will be stored in the cloud.
Exactly. So that's what we will be eventually evolving to, is the integration, the background integration that will aggregate multiple devices and pull all the data to this common cloud-based database for each customer as they have configured and set up their systems.
And I'm sure it's a question out there, but just to head it off, we're probably a few weeks out from launching the M0 platform.
So then, does storing these records with their temperature constitute HIPAA records?
This device is not FDA or HIPAA compliant.
So talk a little bit about, and we've heard this question a lot, it's hot outside, which is probably the case in a big portion of where our attendees are dialing in from.
Yep.
And can it account for a person coming in inside, probably maybe affected by the hot temperature outside?
So there are adjustments that you can make for ambient temperature, absolutely. If somebody went out for a run and their body is very hot and they're coming back in, it's going to alert. It's going to set off an alarm that, hey, this person has an elevated temperature. So what you do with that person is a health and safety policy. So you probably, if somebody says, hey, listen, what is the reasoning? I went for a run. Can you sit down for 5 minutes and then retest them? But there is configurations for there is temperature adjustments for ambient temperature.
So I'll combine here 3 questions because they, I think, relate to the same inquiry. How far do you need to be standing from the device? If the unit and display was positioned behind a glass door, would a person walking up to it still have a temperature to be read? Will the device work inside a clear protective case?
Gerard, I'll let you address those.
Okay, as far as the distance answer, you see as I'm approaching it from 6 to 5 feet away, it starts to pick me up and guides me to walk in closer. I've seen it pick up as far out as 36 inches and definitely by the 20 inches. So the specs are half a meter to 1 meter away. So 20 inches to 36 inches away. It's very reliable within that range, if not farther out. So it all depends on the lighting and how tall the person is or whatever, but it's very accurate within those ranges. What was that second question? Sorry.
So if the unit and display was positioned behind a glass door, and this might be for infection reasons, that there would be a kind of, a separation between the unit and the individual.
That's a very good question, Edwin, and the first time that I've ever come across it. We have not tested that kind of integration and setup. So I'd be taking a very wild gamble at venturing an answer on that one. So let's take that away, and the team and I will go and test that one.
Maybe the same is true then. Will the device work inside a clear protective case?
Again, I'm going to just venture to say that it's not designed to perform in that kind of environment and setup. So I don't know, but until we actually test it, we don't know for sure. But I don't see what the additional benefit would be for doing so, since it's a contactless, touchless.
Yeah. 2 questions about calibration. I'll combine them. The accuracy is plus or minus 0.9 degrees. Is there any way to increase that number through calibration to reduce, to increase that number or reduce that number through calibration? And then another one is, do you use any black body for ongoing calibration?
In increasing the accuracy, I don't think that's going to be achievable by any additional calibration other than the factory settings that come in with the unit. It's quite accurate. You've got a plus or minus 0.9 degrees Fahrenheit range, and all the testing that we've done for the past month that we've had this unit, it's proving quite stable and accurate. Calibration is something that is definitely being worked on. We're trying to figure out what's the most cost-effective way to recommend our customers to maintain and calibrate these units with a separate device. And it would not be a black box type configuration. That's more in line for FDA compliance. So the team is working very diligently to come up with a calibration procedure for this device.
So address if this can interface with the cart access system.
Bruce, do you want to pick up on that one?
Yeah, so it does have and Gerard can talk to the technical aspect of it, but it does have a card reader integrated. It is MyFare, so it doesn't support at this time, although we are working to add this functionality, and it doesn't work with other technologies like HID, which is common in North America. So it's limited in its integration right now, but certainly that is on the roadmap to address. So I would say right now, in fairness, its purpose is to take somebody's temperature and alert somebody either in the lobby where the device sits, or with the M0 platform at an enterprise level. As far as opening doors or deactivating cards, that's something that the team is working on right now, but I wouldn't want to say that we have that available at this point.
How is the keyboard attached?
The keyboard is connected through a port. So the manufacturer is going to provide a extension on the USB that comes out of the pigtail. So the device, as it comes, has about 9 different ports. 2 of them are USB, and they've extended. So out of the box, you'll get an extended USB cable next to your 120 volts power cable, and that is where you would connect the keyboard, the USB keyboard.
Yeah, maybe if you could address this, we went through it a little bit in the presentation, but can the data be accessed or sent to a computer?
So exactly as we mentioned earlier, we showed how you can export it to a thumb drive. So for the out-of-the-box present time, you would have to connect a USB jump drive, and using the instructions that we can provide, that we do provide, you would follow the prompts and be able to select the date range that you wanted to export, query it, and then export it. It dumps it into an Excel file. So that Excel file can then be taken to another computer and uploaded and used to perform whatever screenings you wanted to do. It's a very comprehensive format. It pulls the device name. So if you had multiple devices, you'd be able to identify the device that it was data was purged from, and then you would have the person's ID number, their name, and the timestamp, as I mentioned, along with the temperature data and the thumb drive, the thumbnail shot of that person at the time of the event.
So if the device is not HIPAA compliant, can it be made so by turning off the voice in alarms and having the information transmitted to a cell phone or out of sight of the other persons?
I'm sure there's things. So go ahead, Gerard.
Sorry, Bruce. From my perspective in the conversations that I've had with multiple customers, it's really dependent on each person's HIPAA compliance officer and their HR department, how they want to address this. And Bruce can add some additional.
No, I was going to simply say it's a good conversation, but I mean it's more of a discussion. We don't have an answer for it at this particular time, other than to be transparent and say that it's not HIPAA compliant. But we would certainly welcome the conversation to see, what would need to happen to address that.
Can the unit be mounted on the wall without the stand?
Yes, like Bruce said earlier, for the time being, to address the high demand, there's only a pedestal freestanding option provided. But an enterprising customer could definitely kind of deconstruct the unit and safely mount it. It's provided with a very robust flange and lock nut below it. So a resourceful client could possibly make the proper necessary structural arrangements to mount it to a wall, yes. at the right ADA compliance elevation.
Yeah, this is a setup question, but can anyone download the data? Is there security that only allows certain people to download the data?
Yes, as I demonstrated, it's protected by a password. So first of all, a person would have to have a keyboard to get in there and be able to get into the application, and they'd have to enter a password to get in first before they could get into the system, let alone the data.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know that we want to get into the details of it on this call, but we can provide, we have pen testing for those that are interested and security policies for the product that we can provide for those people that are interested in knowing more about that information.
Interesting question here. I work in a school and considering this at the front entrance to screen delivery people, visitors for meetings, etc. There's sunlight that comes through the glass in the doors into the hallway. And basically the related question to that is, would sunlight affect the accuracy?
Yes, so very good question and important considerations to take. I've tested it in multiple lighting environments and conditions, and you definitely want to avoid shining and exposing the sensors and cameras to a very bright source of light. So if you're putting it in an entrance, a lobby, whether it's a school, a business, you want to make sure that it doesn't have a backlight to the person walking up to it, such as a large halogen light source or a very bright bank of LED lights or a glass that's got the outdoor sunlight beaming into it. So it's very compact. So whether you had one or multiple units, we would definitely recommend that the customer test the unit in the optimal condition depending on the lights during the day. But it's very forgiving. I think the unit, once you configure it, it kind of calibrates itself and it works very reliably.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is, so absolutely, so the device can be in a lobby where there's sunlight. It's just, to Gerard's point, you don't want to have it pointing towards the sunlight. It also has a fan to accommodate various heat sources that may affect the device. So you can have it. So the answer is, and Gerard, correct me if I'm wrong, the answer is yes, you can have it in a lobby where there is direct sunlight. You just have to make sure that you're positioning it so the sensors are not directly in line with the sunlight.
Exactly.
So could you link it to payroll apps like EPD to clock staff in and out of the building?
Bruce?
Sorry, Edwin, I missed that one.
Oh, can you, it's basically the integration with other programs that's the company might be using. This is a question related to, can you link it to payroll apps like APD to clock staff in and out of the building?
As of today, the answer is no. In 3 to 4 weeks, when we launch the cloud platform, the answer will be yes. Through some open APIs, some open REST APIs, you'll be able to integrate this with other third-party systems.
Could you talk a little bit about use cases? Where do you see this being used? People wondering about that. Is it, would you ever use it in a supermarket, in a school? Is it enterprise? Is it mom and pop businesses? Where do you see this being an appropriate solution?
I think all of the above. You know, your local Main Street stores, if you're bringing in customers, you know, it not only does it ensure that the people, you know, looking through your store are healthy, but it shows your customers that you're taking measures. So listen, I think realistically, I think anything from manufacturing, corporations, healthcare clinics, stores. I mean, I can't see a use case if you're given today's situation that you would say that this isn't applicable. Yeah, I mean, it's so quick that you can imagine even people coming into your store, and that's, maybe is a local, I'm thinking gas station or something. Oh, maybe not, but certainly people coming in to shopping areas or to restaurants or so forth. It's so quick and unobtrusive that um, I'm stumbling. I would have a hard time saying there's not a use case that could benefit from this.
Yeah, and we see this in the orders that we've seen coming in. They are literally from all kinds of companies that see it and see an opportunity here with this temperature kiosk. So I agree.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you turn off automatic picture capture?
Can you turn off automatic capture? No. Good question. You have different modes of screening. So at the very minimal, the device in screening captures a photo with each event, whether the person is enrolled or not enrolled. For the stranger mode, definitely. So if you put this on stranger mode and do not record, it will not record anything that a stranger does in front of the device, whether they're under threshold or above threshold. It will only capture a photo for the enrolled personnel.
Question regarding M0, and we went through this rather quickly. So first of all, the question was, is it optional? And that's the answer is yes. It's
Yes.
the base units doesn't have it, but we're hoping at the end of the month that M0 will provide options for people that want to add capabilities to that. A question there related to M0 is, using M0, can you monitor temperature alarms?
Yes.
Then a question regarding this warranty on the unit. Who supports it if questions may occur? Could you address that?
So your first line of contact would be your authorized distributor, which are the brands that you see up on the screen. But correct me if I'm wrong, Gerard. It's a depot warranty, is it not?
Correct. 1 year return to depot if it can't be resolved by one of our well-trained partners.
Right. So your first line would be the partner, and they'll have tech support teams that are trained to address any field issues. If it can't be addressed in the field, then there's a 1 year return to depot.
Question about, can you add Q&A content for example, CDC screening questions to this device? And if so, would it require the individual being screened to touch the device to answer the questions?
So at this point, no, but those are conversations that we would be open to having, but it would be bespoke or a custom professional services engagement. So there's no features within, correct me if I'm wrong, Gerard, there's no features or function within the platform right now to allow you to add questions on the screen. But we would be open to having that discussion if that was something that somebody wanted to do on a professional services level.
Question regarding the keyboard.
So,
I'll go ahead, Gerard, before I go to the next one.
No, Edwin, I was just going to say, day one, as it stands right now, we're trying to address the need out there, and the majority of the requirements are asking for touchless, minimal engagement requirement to screen. So that's why the device performs and works the way it does.
Correct. Yeah.
So how is the keyboard attached? Is this a specific keyboard? Is it a Bluetooth keyboard?
So right now I'm using a corded keyboard, but as long as it's a USB interface that's provided by us out of the box. So when you get your unit, there will be USB port extended below the base, and whether you want to use a corded keyboard or some kind of a Bluetooth or radio frequency driven device, cordless wireless device, you can do that. But it doesn't matter. You can use any variety of ones. I just have been using a lot of these all-in-one keyboards that have the built-in trackball and mouse. The unit will come with one, so rest assured, folks, you don't have to go out day one and purchase the keyboard. It will come with the kit.
Great. And maybe a little bit of a review. What does and does not work in your testing? You know, the cap, sunglasses, you know, a mask, as you kind of demonstrated. But could you kind of review like what the unit, you know, is able to take perfectly, and what maybe has been a little harder to have the unit work with?
So the main things, like Bruce mentioned earlier, is the temperature screening. So you set a threshold, and that threshold can be adjusted. So you're screening for a temperature. You're also screening for a facial recognition. That's a second option that you can for people that are enrolled, whether you want to screen employees and have a separate protocol for strangers, as the software calls it. And then you've got the mask recognition, so that it can help you enforce a policy of mask utilization and wearing that mask. I've tried a couple of different things, putting my hand over my face. It definitely recognizes the difference between a true bona fide mask or just trying to fake it out, putting your hand over it. You see, I wear glasses, so whether I wear my glasses or I put a ball cap on my head, it recognizes me, addresses me as my enrolled persona, and it captures even when I'm out of temperature. So I've done the different tests with the ball cap on, with the glasses, and using the temperature simulator there in my cup. It captures me and gives me admittance. So very versatile. I'm sure there are some situations where we might find that there's a little bit of a challenge, but we have not come across any of those yet.
Gerard, just to maybe to help address that question, so the forehead has to be visible, is that correct?
A certain amount of surface area. So you see there's a red dot that shows up. I don't know if y'all noticed on that red dot, maybe I didn't highlight it, but it's helping you guide to an area. So the algorithm is looking for a surface area that it can ping from two different angles. So there's a very, I think it's you know, a very giving footprint and surface area of skin that it needs to see in order to pull a temperature. And if somebody has bangs, hair that's falling across it, I've had you know, a couple of visitors with females with bangs and such, and the device accurately reads temperatures, whether they've got, you know, hair across their forehead or not, or like I've done with my ball cap.
Okay.
Could you talk a little bit about the IR camera specs, detector resolution, field of view? Well, what do you know about the camera?
Gerard, I'll let you take that.
It's a very very robust little device that has been sourced. We are using a German product right now, and we're getting a spec sheet put together for it, so that will be available in the next couple of weeks or so. But it's as you can tell, it's very reliable, has a lot of flexibility. The camera can do different resolutions. It's not going to give you the option to do the thermal colored image of face. So at this point in time, to my understanding, we couldn't pull a thermal mapping picture. it's designed and it's set up right now to pull an actual photo of the person. So we're very happy with the quality of the camera, and it's got a very broad viewing angle. So it comes out about 50 degrees. So that's why you see when I'm walking up to the unit, I was purposefully coming at it from an angle, and it starts to detect that there's a presence within that 50 degree field of view, and it's ready to start prompting you and walking you into the camera range so that it can better finalize and resolve the facial recognition and temperature screening.
Yeah. And as far as technical specs, you did a very nice job of avoiding all the technical specs. To Gerard's point, we don't have them memorized, but that there will be a technical spec sheet available for that speaks to the camera specifically, because that has been quite important in a lot of discussions we have. So we realize that, and we're publishing that as well.
A couple of questions regarding
Not
the
an IR
stranger
camera.
mode. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not an IR camera expert, so I didn't want to.
You were very diplomatic in your answer. So anyway, we've only got a couple minutes left. For those, we've got about 3 minutes left, so we'll continue answering questions. But for anybody that we don't get to in your question, we will make sure that somebody follows up with you and addresses any questions. But Edwin, go ahead and continue on.
Yeah, let's fill the time because we do have some more. Questions regarding a stranger mode. Will the M0 email work? Or if no picture is taken in stranger mode, can we still have the unit alarm?
It's a good question, Gerard.
That it is. So that definitely is going to be a use case that we will be testing. And Bruce, if it does not do that, it better, because that's quite obvious, a common sense application. So
okay, so we'll get with our product team on that one.
Yeah, until we can test it, you know, we're going to have to say that it's not validated as of today, but very important piece of functionality.
So here's a question regarding use of the unit in warehouses. And warehouses, they can get cold or hot during certain times of the year. You mentioned you have an auto fan. Anything else that the user needs to do to have this unit work accurately in circumstances that can vary quite a bit throughout the year?
Yes, so in one of the fields that I briefly went over, it's called a offset compensation field with a plus or minus factor. So you can apply an offset value to the algorithm. If you're noticing it, so if your HR or IT team notices that the temperatures are reading high or low, you could go in there and enforce and apply that offset plus or minus factor to bring the unit more in line with the actual temperatures based on that environmental impact.
And then maybe the last one, and that covers quite a good big chunk of the questions. I'm very pleased that the 60 minutes seem to cover this. This is related to large quantities. You showed the price for 1 unit. Are there price breaks for for larger quantity purchases, maybe 20 or more?
Our large is at 1,000, so there is a price break, and we believe it. We are seeing those. So there is a price break at 1,000. There's nothing below 1,000 at this point.
Well, I think Bruce and Gerard, that does it for the questions. You can wrap it up and then thank the audience.
Okay. Well, listen, guys. Thank you very much. We think this is a relevant and timely solution. We hope you have enjoyed the information. And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us, but certainly your representatives from your partner listed on the screen right now would be a good first step. Again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.